Recycling can seem like a small thing, but every time we separate the plastic from the cardboard, we like to think we're helping just a little. Making a positive contribution, taking a small but constructive step towards making a difference. It's a far cry from saving the world, but the tired, middle-aged cynic in me can sometimes think that's just a little bit grandiose anyway. Today's story is about Andrew Johnston, a young man who did set out to change the world and discovered that he's the one who's been changed. And because of that, he's still determined to make a difference, to make things better. Andrew set out as a skinny and perhaps slightly green 20-year-old to start to make that difference in Africa.
Naively, I really wanted to save the world, to be honest.
It was as simple as that.
Yeah, as a young Christian with, somewhere in me was this idea that part of my Christian faith meant that what was happening in the world, where people were, I guess, in suffering and poverty, that was part of my response as a Christian was to help. But I mean, it was just a learning experience, really. Huge learning experience, I think. Well, I spent 4 months in South Africa, and there I was in an orphanage with children who were HIV positive, and that was about learning more explicitly about learning what was going on, what was the issues, and how we could do something about it. And then from there, went on to Zambia and spent a year working in an orphanage and a school.
What did the people in South Africa and Zambia, what did they expect of you as this young, white stranger from the other side of the world?
Well, there's a lot of strange dynamics going on. I mean, my first day in Zambia, they said to me, okay, well, you're the missionary, you're here to serve us, so you tell us what you're going to do to help us. And I was 20 at that time, and I was petrified, and I was in a new place, new culture. I didn't understand the language and any of that, and I had to say to them, look, you tell me where you need help. And it was a learning experience for me as well, because I think I did, even though I tried not to think I was trying to save the world, I did feel a little bit of that. And it was a big learning experience for me, realizing that I had so little to offer, other than just helping them. And they were the ones doing the work. They were the ones who were spending their whole lives with these children, so all I could do was support them. The first day I was there, all the women, because the place is run by these elder women who are the council for the school and the orphanage, and they are the ones who are saving that place. I mean, the grandmas of Africa are just my biggest heroes, and I was just overwhelmed by 20 women singing and dancing and all shaking my hand and giving me hugs and kisses, and I mean, they're so happy and so beautiful, and in situations that are just desperate sometimes. And I mean, that for me is part of what my faith is about, is feeling that hope despite the despair, and trying to make that a reality, where in those situations where there is despair, trying to look for the hope and trying to be a part of creating that hope.
How much did the grandmothers who were doing all the work there, how much did they value a little white boy from Aotearoa coming over and hanging around the fringes? Was it a significant act of solidarity for them, or how did they see that?
I mean, that was always a strange experience for me, how appreciative they were, because they were so thankful that I'd come. And I think, there were strong Christian community in Zambia. It's a really majority Christian country, and they were part of a really evangelical kind of Christian tradition. And so for them, having someone who felt called by God to come to that community was a way for them feeling, I guess, that same hope, that God hasn't just left them. And that is a big responsibility to try and represent that hope. At first I did the big thing, go to Africa and save these people and be the helpful missionary. But then realizing the little things are really important. That big step is one thing, but if you can't cut it in the little day-to-day things, then it won't count. I had this precious bottle of bottled water, and it was like my salvation because I'd been getting sick from the dirty water. And after I prayed, one of the boys asked me for a drink of my water, and I said, no, you can go out to the well and get some because that's fine for you. And I was grumpy about it because I was getting over sick, and one of the girls said to me, teacher, you pray to Jesus, but you won't give us water. And so that, I mean, that story, yeah, biblically as well, like that, it's a really significant thing, a child asking for water. If I can think I'm going to go to Africa and save the world, but I can't give one child a glass of water. You know, so I learned a lot about what it means to have this response to the desperate things in the world, and it is those simple little things as well. A big thing I learned in Africa was that they're just, and I'm trying to do it here in New Zealand, all my friends were trying to do it, is this idea of living as communities, but they just do it so naturally. They have this idea of Ubuntu, where it means I am because you are. And it's just a reality for them. I mean, they were in and out of my room all the time looking through my stuff, and I mean, that's one side of it. The other side of it is everybody is looked after by the community, and they refer to any older person as their grandmother, or, you know, as their auntie, or so. The amount of like grandmothers that I met who are looking after 14 children and just doing it so selflessly just because it's part of who they are, not because they're trying to be a good person, just because that's who they are. And I'm still, to this day, and hopefully all my life, trying to learn what that means and how I can do that with my life.
So Andrew, tell us a bit about your spiritual evolution. You were born into the family of a Presbyterian minister. What was it like being a child of the manse?
We weren't a super religious home. It was Dad's job, but it was our religion, and that's what we did on a Sunday, and you know, we prayed before meals, and so it was just kind of a backdrop for me. But it was always there. There was always all these people around us that were kind of part of our lives and part of who we were.
Right.
Yeah. When you're a teenager, sometimes it's a bit more black and white, and when I was 16, I made a decision to kind of commit more to that Christian background, and was baptized, baptized in Oriental Parade in the ocean.
Oh, really? Okay.
Which was a lot of fun. So that, I mean, that's the point where I'd say I decided to be more part of this. And of course my reasons back then were quite different than my reasons to stick to it now, but that was it was a commitment for me. During high school I was in a rowing team, and for me that was a great community as well. And I mean, rowing is a sport where you're in a boat with a few people, and it's again that idea that you're just one part of a team, and it's amazing when the whole team is going well and your boat's going fast, and so that but then all the stuff on the side, fixing the boats and cleaning the boats, and I was never the greatest rower. Actually I was quite bad at the physical part of it, and I was actually you know, I was dropped from the team a few times, but I kept making it back. And even though I knew I wasn't the best, somehow being part of that, and I knew I had a contribution to make. One of the junior coaches found a bit of driftwood and mounted it, and then named it the Andrew F. Johnston Trophy. And I was so surprised, I didn't understand what he was doing. But he said, you know, I'd been dropped from the team 3 times and came back every time. He said, this trophy is for the most committed rowing member every year. And so that, I mean, that was
great,
a real...
isn't it?
yeah. And now, of course, it probably goes to the kid who's getting the fastest times. But for me, it was, it really helped me understand that you don't have to be the best at things, but being committed to that team, and so that idea of community has been throughout my life, I guess. Since that point, all these ideas of mission became really important to me. I mean, I've always had this passion for what's going on in the world. I mean, I love geography, and so it was just a way to combine this commitment I had to the church, and then this passion I had for what was going on in the world gave me a real big question of how do I understand this Christian story, and how do I respond in that way to what is happening in the world. I travelled for a few years, and Africa was part of that. Also, when I left high school, I went to Fiji for 5 months on a discipleship training school, which was kind of like a little mini missionary trip. Right. Spent 5 months working with a ship that did eye surgeries. It was also a lot about teaching about, right. About different things about what mission means, and that was great. And that service part of it was really important to me, that we were out there actually physically helping people and I mean, changing lives, doing 10-minute people. I wasn't doing surgeries, but there was a surgeon doing 10-minute surgeries that could revolutionise someone's life, you know. And that's a real
huge contribution. Yeah, that's right. That's all within a particular evangelical tradition of Christianity, which is very strong. But did that continue to satisfy you?
Well, I see back then as a teenager, and then later on, that a lot of it was about me, and a lot of it was about my relationship with God and with Jesus, and my call from God, and my own quite personal spiritual questions, and then going through this kind of missionary journey and going to all these places and realizing that what's most effective and what is most real is this community that we're part of, and this big picture, and that all these questions about God and my spirituality started to make a lot more sense.
You came back to New Zealand and ended up doing a development degree.
It's a geography degree, actually, so it's looking at how people and the earth are working out, and how they develop economically, how they develop socially, and so for me it's just been great. For me, I used it as a way to debrief myself over 3 years from that experience and work out what was I doing there, and was this part of what is helpful development, and what is helpful development, and so it just gave me 3 years to think about what actually works.
For the last year, you've been working with Christian World Service. Has that been another kind of unfolding of this commitment to whatever appropriate development is?
Yeah, they represent to me like a really good idea of this response. We have projects around the world which really does support community development, trying to make sure that we and them are partners rather than donors and recipients.
It strikes me sometimes there's a potential tension between development on the one hand and what is the other growing theme of our age, which is environmentalism. Does that make sense to you?
Definitely, and the projects we support are generally ones that have a way of helping the environment and helping the people at the same time. I mean, for example, one of my favourites, I shouldn't have favourites, but I do, is a rainwater harvesting project in Zimbabwe. So it's local solutions to water scarcity. And water is a huge environmental issue. But it means at a household level, people can have water by building these tanks. And so we support the building of the tanks. They build them, we just help financially. And instead of giant dams that can really affect ecosystems, we can do it at a local level. Along the ground, there's a bunch of different pictures and scenes and things. And if you all want to choose one of these cards, have a think about how it says what's going on for you today, how you're feeling, and then we're going to talk about it a bit.
So I know you're also working with the BGI, the Boys and Girls Institute.
I help facilitate a group where we get together every couple of weeks and we talk about how we can make Wellington a better place for young people. We came up with these 5 P words: pride, place, positive, food, and a new word we invented called participation, or participation, but this is our special way to spell it. But you just made a mistake. Yeah, I made a mistake. So people who haven't signed this, you will get a chance to later to say that you're part of this group and part of this this philosophy, I guess. Young people in a lot of ways, like people who are in developing countries, have been marginalised, and so a lot of what I'm working with is finding ways that young people can have more of a say in our communities and how we can support young people better.
We can't have it everywhere, so
Yeah.
maybe we should have a map. To your ancestors.
We at St John's, and I think a lot of churches are facing this actually, are seeing that people in their 20s have real trouble staying at church. And I mean, I have trouble staying at church. And so what we've done is we've formed a group of friends who are in our 20s, just as a way to get together and not just on a Sunday morning be able to talk about these facial issues. So we meet once a week, and usually we're helped along by a few drinks in our conversation.
Weeks ago, I heard somebody talking about two people who'd been sick, and one of them had been healed. And they were talking enthusiastically about how God had intervened to heal the one person. And the whole time I'm thinking, yeah, but what about the other person? I mean, they didn't get healed. Where was God? Why didn't God intervene with them? And then it was last night, just last night, I heard somebody say that they'd been in a store and they'd seen something they really wanted and it was on sale, and they said, this just shows how good God is. If God can help people find things on sale, then why doesn't God spend time doing things that seem more important, like earthquakes or famines or sickness?
We talk about God and we talk about these questions of faith, and when we talk about development and the environment and all these things, and it's a way for us to get together as friends and discuss that. I mean, that's what church is for me.
Right.
It's just a way to get together, to talk and think about who God is, and a way to experience that.
What does this bit mean? The song is playing all around us all the time. The song is playing everywhere. It's written on our hearts, and everybody is playing the song. See, the question isn't whether or not you're playing a song. The question is, are you in tune? So what does it mean for you to be in or out of tune with the song? And are you in tune? Like, he's obviously using the song and tune as metaphor, but what is he like?
I just think it's a cool way to describe God.
Yeah.
Like, you know when you're feeling like out of sync with, like sometimes you're like feeling like things aren't going so great.
Mm.
And that's feeling like there's like a lack of harmony or something.
Mm.
You've been a member at St John's in the city in Wellington for forever.
Yeah.
Almost.
Pretty much, yeah.
And that context has had that security for you to ask questions and not to have to come to the right answers.
Yeah. It is a place where there is lots of different people's opinions and lots of diverse understandings of God, I guess, and that's and I think that shows to me what a church should be about.
What happens though when somebody's point of view is, fundamentally different from yours?
We do come up with that quite a lot. And it's a real challenge for those who are leading our church. And I'm glad I'm not in leadership sometimes because I don't have to facilitate that. I mean, there's issues I'm passionate about. And, for example, gay leadership in the church. And the way our community responds to people in our community that haven't always been accepted in our exclusive church communities. I feel that we have a bit of a role to be a bit more open to them, and I recognise that's a big debate in our church. And
that's a good example because it's splitting a whole lot of the churches, actually.
Yeah.
Well, splitting may be the wrong word. It's divisive within a lot of the churches, and the Presbyterian Church is one of those. How do you, if you locate yourself in a place that says that the church should be more open to accepting people who have been outsiders in the past, and the church as a whole is saying, no, there's biblical reasons and theological reasons why we can't do that. How do you hold your place in that community?
Yeah, well, sometimes it's hard, but I do also feel I've got to speak what I believe, and for me, a lot of my faith right now is about how I respond to things in the world. I have gay friends who I know have been really hurt by the way they've been treated sometimes, and for me, it's about my response to them and my love for them, and how can I respond in a loving way, which is for me what Christianity is about. And how can we do that as a church?
Support all families, O Lord, and bring to them the stability and love which is again that foundation on which peoples go forth.
Within churches you have, you celebrate births and you celebrate deaths and you celebrate marriage and everything in between. It's a community of our full experience of life, and that's kind of framed how I see all these things, that we're part of that, and because I've believed all sorts of crazy things and still been part of that community, it's helped me to see that despite all the hard things in the world and then all the happy things in the world, that we're all part of this big picture.
O Christ our God, you are ever the same, yet you reveal yourself today to every seeker. You are greater than our minds can grasp or our words describe. Knit us together in love and witness, that people may see in us something of your many splendid glory, and may worship with us the one eternal God.
What's worship about for you?
I mean, when we're all singing the songs or saying the prayers, I'm sure we all believing all sorts of things, but we're doing it together, and I think we share that kind of common mystery.
There in the garden of tears, my heavy load he chose to bear. His heart with sorrow was torn, yet not my will, but yours, he said. This is our God, the servant king.
Who's God for you?
Logically, the world seems to be in a really scary place, and sometimes my life is in a scary place, or my friends are in a scary place, and sometimes things don't seem to be going right, but then somewhere inside me there's this little thing that tells me it's going to be okay, and there's this hope in me, and I don't understand that, but for me, and I'm quite happy not to understand
Right.
it, but for me that is God, that little idea that the world is okay, and that somewhere, something is making things a better place, and I'm really glad I'm part of that. And so I see that in so many things. I mean, I see that when I'm gardening and there's a plant growing, and you see that, you know, somehow life breaks through, and somehow hope comes through, and all those things, and like the people in Africa who sing and dance, and hope is just such a penetrating thing, and it really excites me. I think a lot of the environmental questions I ask come down to my connection with the land, which is something in our country's past we had a strong connection with the land, you know, and just refinding that, and growing some of my own food, and how exciting that is, seeing things grow and having that connection, and trying to look at ways we can make our community see that a bit better. Recently I've been part of the Newtown Sustainable Communities group, and we're just a group of people that have been got together as people that are interested in these environmental questions and interested in ways we can do something about it. And so one of our ideas is we just get together as a group and try and share things.
Okay, cool. Bye-bye. Bye.
And so practically that means we've organised little things where someone brought along a compost tea he made that you can put in your garden to make your garden better. Okay. And then someone brought along said they can offer skills at fixing bikes. And so really simple things that people can do that we're able to share, and someone fix someone's bike and they ended up cooking them a meal. And so we just really feel that these really simple things we can do to connect with each other as community are all great for the environment.
So it's kind of sustainability network as much as anything. Is there a particular role for the church in this?
What I've seen in churches is there are communities waiting to hear a voice, waiting to hear about these issues. And the people that get together every Sunday who want something to talk about, want something to do action on, and we can say, hey, what about the environment? And suddenly that community is ready to go. When I came back from Zambia, there was this huge tension for me. I mean, it was quite a hard time trying to balance the comfortable life here with what I saw over there. And it's not just about them developing and becoming their own whole community, but there's things going on in the world where things I do in my life can affect people in Africa. A big part of my job, we get to campaign for issues that we can change here in New Zealand that would make the world a better place.
G'day, mate.
Hey.
What would you like?
Just grab a flat white.
Yeah. So here's yours.
Seeing what fair trade meant, that it's a way not just to give money and not just to think nice thoughts about people in these situations, but actually do something really practical and make a big difference in a big picture way. I mean, fair trade is about paying a fair price for what people make, and it's also about having long-term relationships with the people who are making the things we're buying. And the exciting thing is, it's just getting people to ask that question, where does this come from? Because we hardly ever ask that question.
Can the world be saved?
Well, I think my mind maybe tells me no. But like I said, there's something in me that feels this hope and feels there's a better way available, and that's what keeps me going even when it seems impossible. And I wonder sometimes, does the world need to be saved? Or,
Right, yeah.
I mean, you know, like, is that the right way to say it? Or is, what is it the world really needs? I don't know. What is going to make the world a better place? I don't know. But I know there is something better. And I know as a Christian and I know as a human, I am built to look for that better way. And there's this hope in me that wants to find that better way. And that's exciting. And I don't know if it's going to be saved, and I don't know if it needs to be saved, but I know something hopeful's going on.
This program was made with funding from New Zealand On Air.